In this session, we aim to give a very general overview of the autism spectrum. You will find more comprehensive and detailed information on our website, www.scottishautism.org. For now, what we want to do is give some good basic background information on autism in general. What is important to you is your own child. You will recognise the ways in which autism impacts on their development. You will also know their personality, their skills and strengths, as well as the areas where they need support. So whilst it is important to have a generic understanding of autism, it's much more important for you as a carer or a parent to understand the unique individual you love and care for. If your child has been newly diagnosed, you will find that there is an enormous amount of information available on the internet and from other sources. This can be overwhelming, and it can be hard for you to see your own child reflected in what you're reading. That's why it's important to start from the individual rather than anything you might read or hear about autism in general. General knowledge can help you make sense of issues and challenges, but it can also confuse and conflict. This is one of the many reasons we take an enabling rather than directive approach to our support of families and individuals. If you have an older child, you might already have experienced information overload, in which case feel free to skip this section or use it as a point of reference. The first thing to keep in mind about autism is that it is a condition that impacts on development, so you are likely to observe differences in certain aspects of your own child's development. Perhaps the most noticeable area is social interaction. Differences in social interaction can vary greatly in people on the spectrum, from what seems like a complete lack of engagement with other people to a strong desire to be in the social world, but with difficulties in assimilating and acting on social rules as they apply in different contexts, or with different people. Of course, there are lots of variations in between. Some important things to realise that although people on the spectrum have difficulty recognising, understanding and responding to feelings and emotions, they are not unfeeling or emotionless individuals. It is often the translation and internalisation of feelings that cause social and emotional misunderstanding. People on the spectrum have the full range of emotions that anyone else has. What those supporting them may need to do is recognise the expression of those feelings. We also need to enable and support children and young people to develop a sense of themselves. What does worried look like and feel like for me? How do I react and respond when I am anxious, sad, happy? This may be a non-traditional expression, but it will be an expression nonetheless. To give you an idea of some of the things I'm talking about, you can think of a young girl who had just started school. She was happy to be in the playground with other children, but has very fixed ideas about who should play what games and how they should be played. She finds it difficult to take turns and becomes very distressed if other children want to do things differently. You can also think about a young man who is very able, lives independently, and when greeting a professional he was involved with who was returning from holiday, he said to him, "I know I meant to ask you if you have had a good holiday. I've been told that you like being asked this, but I don't understand why I should say this because I'm not actually that interested in your holiday." So we can see a different way of interacting, but nonetheless, one that we have to try and understand and work with and support. Social communication is another area where you will have noticed differences. Some children and young people do not develop verbal language, but may learn to use other means of communication, such as object or pictorial schedules. We will be speaking about these in more detail as part of our programme. Your child may use some of the more established systems, such as the Picture Exchange Communication System, or PECS as it's more commonly known. Some individuals will develop language, but this may be limited to indicating their basic needs, or it may be very repetitive. Some children and young people have quite a catalogue of vocabulary, but we can often see that it is borrowed from favourite TV programmes or echoed from other people. but they may not use their vocabulary to develop social language or in meaningful social exchange. Small talk is often a challenge. Some individuals can talk at length about a topic or something that is of intense interest to them, but they may not pick up on the social cues that would let them know whether or not this is of interest to the listener or whether it's appropriate in the context they're in. Factual information rather than social information may be safer ground for folks on the spectrum, and this can make for difficulties when engaging with other people, especially those who are well versed in the rules of social chit-chat, such as turn-taking, appearing interested, even if you're not, and applying the social niceties and expectations of a situation. How are you? Are you going on holiday? Or talking about the weather, without really caring about these topics, but knowing how important it is to make social contact with someone. Some examples of these differences are seen in a young boy who was only 7. He had no verbal language, but he seemed to understand words and very simple instructions. He especially responds to language based on activities that are motivating for him, such as swimming. He's been taught to make very good basic choices by using a visual communication system. Another young lady, 15 years old, very talkative and can have long and detailed conversations. However, she has very little interest in conversations that are not focused on her current passion, which is the Roman Empire. Not a common interest for a lot of people, really, but she will respond when people try to have a conversation with her. However, she will quickly introduce her subject regardless of what has gone on before. She will also approach unfamiliar people in shops and at bus stops and talk to them about the Roman Empire, and she becomes very confused and distressed if they do not respond or engage around her preferred topic. You may have noticed that your child has certain what you might call rigid patterns to their behaviour, their choices, or to their expectations of others. This is thought to be as a result of how autism impacts on social imagination and flexible thinking. Social imagination is only one facet of human imagination. It's what enables us to predict how other people might react to what we say and do. It enables us to mentally rehearse situations. So, for example, if you're going for a job interview, you might think ahead as to how the room will be set up, see yourself in your interview suit. You'll try and predict what you might be asked and how you will deliver an intelligent and wonderful answer that will be so superior to the other candidates they will be begging you to have the job right there and then. Of course, when you're very little, you use imagination in play scenarios to explore cause and effect, to predict outcomes, to explore the world and mentally create other worlds. It would be wrong to suggest that people in the spectrum have no imagination, but you will most likely notice a different quality to the play of your child if they are very young. They may engage with toys as objects rather than as representing other things. For example, they may be drawn by the spinning wheels of a car, but not play with the car in the sort of broom broom traditional way, making those noises that you might see in a typically developing child. They may approach the world in a very concrete and literal way, rather than see it as flexible and malleable by applying their imagination. Your child may also have rigid patterns when it comes to eating, sleeping, using the toilet, engaging with people and going places. They may like routines and appear upset or unable to apply their skills if the situation, context or routine is varied. This does not mean they are stuck or incapable of change, and we will be exploring some of these issues throughout the programme. And remember, if you have very specific concerns, you will have the chance to discuss these with an autism advisor. To try and illustrate this idea of rigid thinking or inflexibility in behaviour, can think about a girl who's 6. She has autism and she also has a learning disability. She loves to go to the local park near her home. She enjoys playing on the swings and other equipment. Much as she loves this activity, she becomes very distressed if her parents try to take her to the swing park using a different route to the one that she expects. This can result in her being very distressed and can often result in having difficult behaviour that challenges her parents. She has a similar reaction when she takes a different route to school or if she has to go in the car rather than the bus. So we can see that this very fixed way of thinking can create problems in supporting the individual to actually access things they might even enjoy. Understanding how individuals process information, engage with their environment and learn is an important part of enabling them to develop skills and strategies. There are likely to be a number of things you have noticed about your child. This may include that it appears difficult for them to appreciate the thoughts, feelings, motivations and intentions of other people. They may find it a challenge to anticipate what is required socially in different contexts. Your child may become focused on minute detail but miss the big picture of a situation. They may have an aptitude for recalling factual information and may pay great attention to detail, but planning and self-organisation might be a challenge. All of these issues are related to cognitive or thinking styles and processes. We will be discussing the various theories around these issues throughout the programme. As, if not more importantly, we will also be offering practical, accessible advice on how you might understand and respond to these challenges and how you might build on the strengths and skills your child already has. We don't need to be telling you how complex autism is because you already know that. What we aim to do is support you to recognise and address the aspects of autism that are concerning for you, your child and family, and to enable you to work out ways to address concerns. Importantly, we also want to support you to recognise the strengths and potential your child or young person has, and again to enable you to build on and develop these skills with your child or young person. Thank you.